Welcome back to the Explainer, everyone. All right, let's dive right into this. Today, we're unpacking a really analytical and honestly, an absolutely essential concept from our Master Glossary series. We're talking about the alternating treatments design. If you're looking for the absolute go-to architecture for rapid comparison, or, setting up a flawless functional analysis, this is the framework you literally have to master. We're going to break down exactly how it works, why it's so incredibly effective, and how you can implement it perfectly in your own practice.
So, to really get why this design is such a game changer, we kind of have to look at the traditional problem researchers are always running into. Namely, how in the world do we achieve experimental control without waiting weeks and weeks for baseline stability? I mean, in a traditional setup, proving your treatment actually caused a change usually means sitting around waiting for that baseline data to flatten out. And let's be real, in applied settings, you just don't have that luxury of time. When you need to make immediate decisions for someone's well-being, you can't just cross your fingers and wait. We need a faster, much more precise solution so we can confidently say, yes, our intervention is actually what's working here.
Well, that brings us right to the formal definition. The alternating treatments design, which, by the way, is also very aptly called the multi-element design, since you're rapidly testing multiple elements, is exactly that faster solution we've been looking for. Instead of the old, test one thing, wait a few weeks, test another, this architecture lets us rapidly alternate between conditions to see what's actually driving the behavior. It's sharp, it's highly logical, and it gives us real-time data. Ultimately, it's a super powerful framework designed specifically for achieving rapid experimental control and conducting a highly accurate functional analysis.
Now, you might be wondering, how does all this actually work without just totally confusing the participant? Well, the crucial point here is discriminability. This is literally the secret sauce of the alternating treatments design. If your participant cannot tell the difference between the conditions you're rapidly testing, the whole framework completely falls apart. Think about it like a traffic light, right? A driver needs to know instantly if it's red or green. You can't just change some hidden variable in the background and hope for the best. You have to make the differences blindingly obvious. Discriminability guarantees that the learner knows exactly which rules apply at any given second.
In fact, I really want you to burn this exact quote from the source material into your memory. You aren't just swapping treatments, you are swapping contexts. Seriously, think about that for a second. It is such a profound shift in thinking. Just changing a treatment contingency isn't enough on its own. You have to change the entire environmental cue. You're building completely distinct contexts so that the participant immediately recognizes, oh, okay, the rules of the game have just changed. And this brilliantly illustrates how we actually create those distinct contexts out in the real world. Imagine you're the participant for a second. If you walk into a room and the instructor is wearing a blue shirt, boom, you instantly know condition A's rules are active. But if they're wearing a red shirt, condition B is active. By intentionally pairing a condition with a really obvious visual cue, the participant is never left guessing. Blue shirt on, certain rules apply. Red shirt on, totally different rules apply. This intentional visual separation prevents what we call carryover effects from muddying up your data simply because the context is crystal clear.
Now, what's really interesting about this is the stark visual contrast we actually see in the data itself. If you've got a chaotic tangle of overlapping data paths, where the lines representing condition A and condition B are just constantly crossing back and forth over each other, you do not have experimental control. What you have is just noise. It basically means the participant isn't discriminating, or your treatments just aren't distinct enough. But when those data paths actually pull apart and stay clearly separated, you've struck gold. That clear separation is your visual proof that you have absolutely achieved experimental control.
So how do we guarantee that beautiful, clear separation? Let's move to our tactical checklist and see how this builds into a really actionable protocol. To run a sound experiment, you've got to minimize multiple treatment interference. And here are your precise steps to execute that. First, randomize your condition order. You never want to fall into predictable patterns. Second, keep your intervals short so you can switch rapidly. And by doing those two things, you naturally execute the third step, which is crushing sequence effects. You completely eliminate the risk that a condition only worked because of what came right before it. Follow this, and you isolate the true function of the behavior. This is exactly how you operate with absolute precision.
Okay, so we've covered the architecture, we know the secret sauce of discriminability, and we've got the exact steps to minimize interference and prove experimental control. But, knowing the theory is really only half the battle. The ultimate climax of mastering this topic brings us to the provocative question we absolutely need to ask next. Want to see how to set up a flawless functional analysis using this exact design? Because let me tell you, applying this correctly in the real world is exactly what separates the novices from the absolute masters.
Think about it. If you can completely control the context of an environment,
What other complex behaviors could you rapidly decode and change? If you're ready to take that next step and actually apply this framework clinically, here's your directive. Hit the link below, crush today's BxM quiz block to test your active retention, and unlock the Master Explainer over at our secure platform portal, bxmededucation.com. Go solidify your learning, apply the science, and I will see you in the next explainer.